Rain had a way of finding the cracks inside Madison's heart. Maybe that's why, on the night her world finally shattered, the sky broke open too. She stood on her porch in Cedar Falls, gripping the railing, watching the storm wash the street in silver. Her husband had left only 3 hours earlier. No argument, no apology, just a suitcase rolling across the floor and a quiet sentence that kept echoing in her ears. "I can't do this anymore, Maddie." At 36, she felt like the pieces of her life had scattered across the hardwood floor, too many to gather, too sharp to touch. While thunder rolled far away, she noticed a warm light flick on next door. The new neighbor, the one she had barely spoken to, stepped out onto his porch. His house had been empty for months until he moved in last week, carrying his boxes himself, quiet but strong, like a man who had rebuilt his life more than once. His name was Ethan Cole, 39, a woodworker, a man with tired eyes and careful hands. Tonight he looked over at her, freezing mid-step when he realized she was crying. She turned her face away, wiping quickly, embarrassed he had seen anything at all. But he didn't pretend he hadn't noticed. Instead, he came down the steps, walked toward the fence separating their yards, and paused, close enough to speak, far enough to respect the distance she clearly needed. "Are you all right?" His voice was deep, steady, almost gentle. Madison swallowed hard. "Yeah, just a long day." He watched her carefully, not the kind of watching that made her feel exposed, more like he was paying attention, really paying attention, as if he understood that some pain didn't want to be named. "If you ever need help with anything," he said softly, "I'm usually around." She nodded, grateful but eager to hide. She slipped back into her house, letting the door close behind her. For the rest of the night, she kept replaying his voice in her mind. She didn't want comfort from anyone, least of all a stranger. And yet something in his eyes lingered, something steady, something safe. The next morning brought sunlight and silence. Her kitchen felt too big, the empty chair across from her a reminder of what had just ended. She tried to distract herself by taking the trash out. While walking down her driveway, she saw Ethan again, this time kneeling beside a broken fence post between their yards. He looked up at her with an easy half-smile. "This thing's been leaning for months. Figured I'd fix it before it falls over." She hesitated, unsure if she should stay or go, but his calm presence pulled her closer. "You're doing all that by hand?" "Yeah," he said, lifting a plank. "Gives me something to focus on." She understood that better than he knew. She crouched a little, brushing her fingers over the wood grain. "It's beautiful," she said. He shrugged lightly. "Just repairing what's broken." Something about those words settled in her chest. For the next hour, she watched him work, measured movements, quiet focus. He didn't try to make conversation, and she didn't feel pressured to speak. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful, a steady breath after days of holding everything inside. When he finally finished, he stepped back. "There," he said. "Good as new." Madison stared at the fence, then at him. Maybe he wasn't just talking about wood. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded, wiping sawdust from his hands. "Any time." As she walked back into her house, she felt something unexpected, something small but powerful, stir inside her chest. For the first time since her life fell apart, she didn't feel completely alone. The days that followed settled into a strange rhythm Madison had never expected. She woke each morning feeling the weight of her broken marriage, but by mid-afternoon she found herself drifting toward the window that overlooked Ethan's yard. He was always outside, repairing a shutter, sanding a bench, cutting wood under the soft hum of his old radio. He worked the way some people prayed, quiet, focused, with a kind of devotion that made the world feel less chaotic. One afternoon, she finally stepped outside with a tray of iced tea. She hadn't meant to. Her feet just carried her there, like her heart had grown tired of hiding. Ethan straightened when he saw her. "Hey," he said, surprised. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," she replied, setting the glasses down on the small table in his yard. "You've been helping me without even realizing it." He gave her a careful look. "You don't owe me anything, Madison." She wasn't sure why his words settled so deeply. Maybe because for weeks she had felt like a failure, a burden, someone who had driven her marriage into the ground. But Ethan said everything with a calm honesty that made her feel seen instead of judged. They sat under the shade of the old maple tree between their houses. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, painting soft patterns across the table. For a while, they didn't speak, just sipped tea while the world around them moved quietly. "How long were you two together?" he finally asked, his voice low as if he feared breaking something fragile. 10 years, she said. "But somewhere along the way, I think we forgot each other." He nodded slowly. "It happens." "Did it happen to you?" she asked, before she could stop herself. His jaw tightened slightly. "Yeah," he said. 3 years ago." Madison felt her breath catch. "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "I'm not. Some endings save us." She studied him carefully, noticing the small scars on his hands, the faint sadness in his eyes. He didn't wear his pain loudly. He carried it the way a strong man carries heavy wood, alone, quietly, but with surprising grace. A gust of wind rustled the leaves above them, and as Madison brushed her hair back, her fingers grazed Ethan's hand on the table. She froze, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he looked at her with a softness she wasn't prepared for. "You're strong, Madison," he said, "even if you don't feel it right now." She swallowed. "You barely know me." "I know what pain looks like," he replied. "And I know when someone deserves more than what they lost." His words felt like warm light pouring through her cracks. Before she could respond, a small piece of wood suddenly snapped from the unfinished bench nearby. Ethan rose instantly, inspecting the broken leg with a groan. "That's going to take longer than I thought." Madison stood beside him, touching the splintered edge. "Can I help?" He raised an eyebrow. "With woodworking?" She smiled, her first real smile in days. "Teach me." He hesitated, then placed a second pair of gloves in her hands. "All right, but be ready to get messy." What began as a simple repair turned into hours of shaping, sanding, laughing, and learning. Her cheeks flushed not from embarrassment, but from the warmth of something new growing between them, something she didn't dare name yet. By sunset, the bench stood finished, smooth and steady. Madison ran her fingers across it. "I can't believe I helped do this." Ethan watched her, not the bench. "You did more than you think." Their eyes held a moment longer than either intended. The air felt charged, gentle, but undeniable. The kind of feeling that whispered, "Something is beginning." As she walked home that evening, Madison felt it in her chest, a quiet, dangerous hope she thought she'd never feel again. But hope is fragile. And the next morning, something would happen that would test everything they were building. The next morning, Madison stepped outside with a small smile still lingering from the night before. She had barely slept, her mind replaying Ethan's quiet laughter, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, the warmth that seemed to settle in her chest whenever he stood near. For the first time in a long time, the world felt lighter. But the moment she walked down her porch steps, a familiar car rolled into her driveway. Her heart stopped. It was her ex-husband, Daniel. He stepped out like he still belonged there, like he expected everything to be the same. His hair was a mess, his shirt wrinkled, his expression somewhere between regret and doubt. "Maddie, can we talk?" he asked. Her throat tightened. She hadn't expected to see him again so soon. She hadn't expected to feel nothing. No warmth, no longing, just a distant ache. "I don't know what you want me to say," she murmured. He ran a hand through his hair. "I made a mistake. I didn't handle things right. I was overwhelmed. I panicked." "Daniel," she whispered, "you didn't panic. You walked away." The air grew heavy between them. Before he could respond, Ethan's front door opened. He stepped onto his porch, stopping the moment he saw the two of them. His expression didn't change, but Madison saw the shift in his shoulders, the concern, the alertness, the quiet protectiveness he always carried. Daniel followed her gaze and stiffened. "Who is that?" "My neighbor," she said simply. Ethan stayed where he was, giving her space, but his presence alone steadied her. She drew in a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Daniel stepped closer. "Maddie, I want to fix things." Her heart didn't race. It didn't flutter. It didn't pull her backward. Instead, she felt a sudden, quiet clarity. "Daniel, you left because you didn't love me anymore. And maybe I didn't love you the way I used to either. We were holding on to an idea, not each other." He blinked, stunned. "So that's it? You're just done?" She exhaled slowly. "You ended it. I'm just accepting it." Daniel's jaw clenched, frustration building, but there was nothing left for him to grip onto. She was finally letting go. When he left, driving away without another word, she felt no pain, just release. She turned toward Ethan's porch. He didn't ask a single question. He just walked down the steps and stopped in front of her, close enough for her to feel the warmth of his breath, but not close enough to overwhelm her. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Madison nodded, though her voice trembled. "I think, for the first time in a long time, yes." A soft smile tugged at the corner of Ethan's lips. "Good." The sunlight caught in his eyes, turning them a gentle amber. The world around them felt still, like it was waiting for her to choose the next step. She took a breath. "Ethan, I don't know where my life is going now. Everything feels new and strange and terrifying." He didn't move, didn't rush her. "You don't have to know anything right now." Her chest tightened, but not with fear, with something warmer, something alive. "I just know," she whispered, "that when I'm around you, the pieces don't feel so broken anymore." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back. When she didn't, he took her hand in his. Steady, warm, grounding. "You're not broken, Madison," he said. "You're rebuilding, and if you want, I'll walk with you through every part of it." Her breath hitched. "I want that." Ethan stepped closer, closing the last bit of space between them. Their foreheads touched gently. Not a kiss, not yet, just a promise. And for the first time since her old life shattered, Madison felt whole. Not because someone fixed her, but because someone held her steady while she fixed herself. And in that quiet moment, under the golden morning light, a new love began. Careful, slow, and beautifully real.